How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, April 24th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Friday, April 23rd, 2021. And of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Of course, getting started with yesterday's basketball games, jumping out to Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets hosted the Boston Celtics on prime time. And in this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets would beat the Boston Celtics 109-104. The difference would come in the second quarter where Brooklyn outscored Boston by 13. That would give them a good amount of momentum. And with this loss for the Boston Celtics, their leading scorer was their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum out of Duke, who finished with 38 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 5 turnovers in 39 minutes as he shot 14 for 17 from the field, 6 for 12 from 3, and 4 for 7 from the foul line on the night. And then off the bench, their point guard Peyton Pritchard would finish with 22 points in 24 minutes as he shot 8 for 12 from the field and 6 for 7 from 3. For the Brooklyn Nets in this matchup, their leading scorer was their starting small forward, Joe Harris, who finished with 20 points and 2 blocks he would do all of this in the 35 minutes that he played. Joe Harris would shoot 6 for 12 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Also in the starting lineup, their elite starting point guard Kyrie Irving out of Duke would finish with 15 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals, alongside 5 turnovers in 34 minutes as he shot 4 for 19 from the field, but he shot a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. And off the bench for Brooklyn, their elite power forward Blake Griffin would finish with 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 23 minutes as he shot 5 for 11 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 40-20. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference, as they currently sit half a game ahead of the second place Philadelphia 76ers. With this win, the Nets have now won 6 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they now sit 10.5 games ahead of the 8th place Charlotte Hornets, and they currently sit 22 full games ahead of the last place Detroit Pistons. And with this loss, the Boston Celtics are now 32-28. With this loss, they've still lost 7 of their last 10 games. They currently hold the 6th best record in the East. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit a game behind the 4th place New York Knicks and the 5th place Atlanta Hawks. And they currently sit 1 game ahead of the 7th place reigning Eastern Conference champs Miami Heat. Looking at the other game that came out of last night, the Golden State Warriors hosted the Denver Nuggets, and in this matchup, the Warriors would beat the Nuggets 118-97 after they went on to outscore Denver by 17 points in the second half to gain this momentum. For Denver in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward out of Mizzou, Michael Porter Jr., who finished with 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 37 minutes, shooting 8 for 18 from the field, 7 for 14 from 3, and 3 for 5 from the foul line. And then within their starting lineup, their elite starting center, Nikola Jokic, would finish with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists in 33 minutes, as he shot 7 for 16 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. For the Golden State Warriors, their leading scorer would be their goated starting point guard, Stephen Curry, who finished with 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in 34 minutes, as he went on to shoot 11 for 18 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. And off the bench, their shooting guard Kelly Oubre Jr. would finish with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in 33 minutes, as he shot 9 for 16 from the field and 2 for 5 from the foul line on the night. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are now 30-30. That is the 9th best record in the Western Conference now, as they have won 7 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 1 game behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 14.5 games in the conference as a whole. With this loss, the Denver Nuggets are now 38-21. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference. As with this loss, they've still won 7 of their last 10 as well. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they currently sit 3.5 games below the 3rd place Los Angeles Clippers, and they currently sit 3 games ahead of the 5th place reigning NBA champions Los Angeles Lakers at the moment. Looking at the games that weren't on prime time, jumping out to Charlotte, the Charlotte Hornets hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers and were able to pull off a 108-102 win. After coming into the 4th quarter, they would outscore Cleveland by 6 to pick up their 29th win of the season. For the Cavaliers, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard Colin Sexton out of Alabama, who finished with 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 turnovers in 34 minutes as he shot 11 for 19 from the field and 3 for 5 from the foul line. And then their other starting point guard out of Vanderbilt, Darius Garland, would finish with 27 points and 6 assists as well as 2 steals in 37 minutes as he shot 12 for 20 from the field. For the Charlotte Hornets in this matchup, they had 3 players that all tied for the team high of 25 points. Their starting power forward, P.J. Washington, would finish with 25 points and 5 rebounds in 37 minutes as he shot 9 for 18 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Miles Bridges, would finish with 25 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of steals in 36 minutes as he shot 9 for 15 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. And their starting shooting guard, Terry Rozier, would finish with 25 points and 6 assists in 37 minutes as he shot 9 for 20 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. With this win, the Charlotte Hornets are now 29-30. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. With this win, they've won 4 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they now currently sit a game and a half behind the 7th place reigning Eastern Conference champs, Miami Heat. And they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the 9th place Indiana Pacers, who are currently on the outside looking in at the moment. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 21-38. That is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost 6 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 8 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the 1st place Brooklyn Nets by 18.5 games in the conference. Jumping out to Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks hosted the defending Eastern Conference champs Miami Heat and were able to pull up a 118-103 win after they went on to outscore Miami by 14 points in the second half to pick up this win. For the Heat, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard out of Oakland, Kendrick Nunn, who finished with 21 points in 34 minutes, shooting 7 for 13 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. Their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, would finish with 19 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals in 37 minutes as he shot 6 for 13 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 from the line. And then their elite starting center, Bam Adebayo, would finish with 16 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals, as well as 5 turnovers in 36 minutes, as he shot 6 for 12 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. For the Atlanta Hawks in this matchup, their leading scorer was their starting shooting guard, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who finished with 21 points and 8 assists in 33 minutes as he shot 7 for 13 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. And then their starting power forward, John Collins, would finish with 20 points and 8 rebounds in 32 minutes as he shot 9 for 14 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 33-27. They are tied with the New York Knicks for the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, as the Hawks have now won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, alongside the New York Knicks, they now sit 4 games behind the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks, and they currently sit 1 game ahead of the 6th place Boston Celtics, just to show where they are. With this loss, the Miami Heat are now 31-29. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost 5 of their last 10 games. In the playoff picture, they currently sit 1 game behind the 6th place Boston Celtics and a game and a half ahead of the 8th place Charlotte Hornets, as they currently trail the 1st place Brooklyn Nets by 9 games in the conference. Jumping out to Houston, the Houston Rockets hosted the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Clippers were able to beat the Rockets 109-104 after the Clippers outscored the Rockets by 9 in the 4th quarter after trailing by 4. For the Houston Rockets in this matchup, their leading scorer was their elite starting point guard, John Wall, who finished with 27 points, 3 rebounds, 13 assists, and 2 blocks in 39 minutes as he shot 9 for 22 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting center, Christian Wood, would finish with 24 points and 19 rebounds in 37 minutes as he shot 8 for 22 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. And then their starting power forward, Kelly Olynyk, would finish with 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 steals in 34 minutes as he shot 8 for 13 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. For the Los Angeles Clippers, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Paul George, who finished with 33 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 7 turnovers, as Paul George would shoot 10 for 27 from the field, 3 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 10 for 10 from the foul line. With this win, the Los Angeles Clippers are now 43-19. Win percentage-wise, that is the third best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 4 games and 9 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit half a game behind the second-place Phoenix Suns, and they currently sit 3.5 games ahead of the fourth-place Denver Nuggets at the moment. With this, or right now, at the moment, the Clippers trail the first-place Jazz by 2.5 games. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 15-45, as they have now lost their last 3 games and 8 of their last 10. This is the worst record in the Western Conference. They currently sit 16 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently sit 29.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz in the entire conference. Jumping out to Oklahoma City, the Thunder hosted the Washington Wizards, and the Wizards were able to beat the Thunder 129-109 after they outscored Oklahoma City by 18 in the second half. For the Thunder in this matchup, they had 2 players that tie for the team high, which was 20 points. Their rookie point guard, Teo Maledon, would finish with 20 points and 8 assists in 31 minutes as he shot 5 for 11 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. And then their starting power forward, Darius Bazley, would finish with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 steals in 32 minutes as he shot 6 for 12 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 5 for 8 from the foul line. For the Washington Wizards in this matchup, their leading scorer was their elite starting point guard, Russell Westbrook, who finished with 37 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists in 37 minutes as he shot 14 for 23 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their elite starting shooting guard, Bradley Beal, would finish with 33 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 7 turnovers in 36 minutes as he shot 12 for 24 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. With this win, the Washington Wizards are now 26-33. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 7 games and 9 of their last 10. They currently sit 3 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently sit 13.5 games behind the first place Brooklyn Nets in the Western Conference. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 20-40. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference, as they currently have the worst losing streak in the league. They have now lost their last 13 as a team. They currently sit 11 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture. And at the moment, they trail the first place Utah Jazz by 24.5 games in the Western Conference. Last but not least, jumping out to Portland, the Portland Trailblazers hosted the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies were able to beat the Trailblazers 130-128. This game was virtually close till the very end. And for the Portland Trailblazers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Damian Lillard out of Weber State, who finished with 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists in 37 minutes, as he shot 8 for 22 from the field, 3 for 11 from 3, and 8 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting center, Jusuf Nurkic, would finish with 26 points, 17 rebounds, and 5 assists in 29 minutes, as he shot 11 for 15 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. For the Memphis Grizzlies in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, John Morant, who finished with 33 points, 5 rebounds, and 13 assists in 36 minutes, as he shot 11 for 17 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 10 for 12 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineups, their starting small forward, Dylan Brooks, would finish with 25 points in 35 minutes, shooting 11 for 19 from the field and 3 for 6 from 3. And then their power forward, Jaren Jackson Jr., would come off the bench, finishing with 23 points in 25 minutes, shooting 10 for 14 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 30-28. That is the 8th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won 5 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they currently trail the 7th place Portland Trailblazers by a game and a half, and they sit 1 game ahead of the 9th place Golden State Warriors and the 10th place San Antonio Spurs, who are just sitting on the outside looking in at the moment. And with this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are now 32-27. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 4 games and 8 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit half a game behind the 6th place Dallas Mavericks and they sit a game and a half ahead of the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies, as they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 12 games in the conference. That is, of course, what the NBA is looking like leading up until today. Looking at today's matchup, starting with the prime times at 1 o'clock, the New York Knicks, who are currently holding the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, are going to host the Toronto Raptors, who are currently holding the Eastern Conference's 4th worst record. This game will be on ESPN at 1 o'clock. Following this game at 3:30 on the same network on ESPN, the Bucks, currently holding the third best team in the East, are going to host the Philadelphia 76ers, the 2nd best team in the East. That game will be on ESPN, as Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid, of course, are 2 MVP frontrunners going at it. And then at 8:30, the Dallas Mavericks, who are currently holding the 6th best record in the Western Conference, are going to host the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers on ABC, as Anthony Davis looks to make yet another start following his return from injury. Outside of the primetime games, at 7 o'clock, the Indiana Pacers will host the Detroit Pistons. At 8 o'clock, the Miami Heat will host the Chicago Bulls, and the New Orleans Pelicans will host the San Antonio Spurs. And then at 9 o'clock, the NBA's best record, or the team with the NBA's best record, the Utah Jazz, are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then at 10 o'clock, the Denver Nuggets are going to host the Houston Rockets. Right now, that is what the NBA is looking like. Sticking within the context of the arena, but switching the focus to the ice. Looking at what's going on in the NHL, and of course, it's worth noting that every team has to play within their own division to limit the spread, or just to limit traveling during a pandemic. Starting up north in Canada, the Calgary Flames hosted the Montreal Canadiens and were able to pull off a 4-2 win after scoring 2 goals in the 3rd period. With their 20th win of the season, the Calgary Flames now hold the 5th best record in the North Division, as they currently trail the Toronto Maple Leafs by 20 games. Or by 20 points, I mean. Jumping out to the East, the Buffalo Sabres hosted the Boston Bruins and were able to pull up a 6-4 win, led by their center Reinhart, who would end up with a hat trick himself. With their 13th win of the season, the Buffalo Sabres are sitting at the bottom of the East Division, as they currently trail first place Washington Capitals by 31 points in the table. And then jumping out to the Central, the Chicago Blackhawks hosted the Nashville Predators, and the Predators were able to pull off a 3-1 win on the road. With their 26th win of the season, the Nashville Predators currently hold the 4th best record in the Central Division, as they sit 13 games behind the 1st place Carolina Hurricanes. And then jumping out west, the Los Angeles Kings went on to host the Minnesota Wild. The Wild were able to beat the Kings 4-2, led by their left winger Kaprizov, who had 2 goals himself. With their 30th win of the season, the Minnesota Wild now hold the 3rd best record in the West, as they currently sit 5 points behind the 1st place Las Vegas Golden Knights at the moment. Right now, that is what hockey is looking like leading up until today's matchups, starting with the prime times. At 3 o'clock, the St. Louis Blues are going to host the Colorado Avalanche on NBC. At 7 o'clock, the New York Islanders are going to host the Washington Capitals on ESPN+. And then at 9 o'clock, the Anaheim Ducks are going to host the Golden Knights on ESPN+. Outside of those games, at 7 o'clock, the Winnipeg Jets are going to host the Toronto Maple Leafs at 7. But earlier on in the day, the Pittsburgh Penguins will host the New Jersey Devils. At 7 o'clock, the Panthers will host the Carolina Hurricanes as well. The Detroit Red Wings will host the Dallas Stars. The Calgary Flames will host the Montreal Canadiens. The San Jose Sharks will host the Minnesota Wild at 9 o'clock. And then at 10, the Vancouver Canucks will host the Ottawa Senators. And then the Los Angeles Kings will host the Arizona Coyotes, as we have a wild, action-packed day of hockey ahead of us. Looking out to what's going on in the MLB, there was a lot going on as we are entering this weekend's series of games. Starting off in Chicago, the Chicago Cubs hosted the Milwaukee Brewers and were able to put up 15 runs to give Kyle Hendricks his first win of the season. The start and the loss for Milwaukee will go to Brett Anderson, who would allow 3 earned runs in the .1 inning that he pitched. With this loss, Brett Anderson is now 2-2 as a starting pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. In their batting lineup, their second baseman, Colton Wong, will go 3-for-4 with an RBI and a run. He was the only player with more than 1 hit on the team. For the Chicago Cubs, the win and the start, of course, went to Kyle Hendricks, who had allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. With this win, Kyle Hendricks is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher. Their elite left fielder, Chris Bryant, will go 3-for-4 with a run for himself. Their first baseman, Anthony Rizzo would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as Rizzo hit his 4th home run of the season. Their elite shortstop Javier Baez would go 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs as Baez hit his 6th home run of the season. Their center fielder Jake Marisnick would go 2 for 4 with 5 RBIs and 3 runs. As Marinick would hit his 1st home run of the season, and then their second baseman Nico Horner would go 3 for 4 with an RBI for himself. With this win, the Chicago Cubs at the moment are 10-9. That is the second best record in the National League Central, as they now trail the current first place Milwaukee Brewers by a game in the division. So that's currently how that division is looking. Looking out to Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles they hosted the Oakland A's last night, and the A's were able to beat the Orioles 3-1 to give Irvin his second win as a starting pitcher. For Baltimore, the start and the loss would go to Jorge Lopez, who would allow 3 earned runs and 4 innings pitched as he struck out only 1 batter on the day. With this loss, Jorge Lopez is now 1-3 as a starting pitcher. Their center fielder, Cedric Mullins, would end up going 2 for 5 on the day. Their first baseman, Trey Mancini, would go 2 for 4 with a run. And then their third baseman, Michael Franco, would go 2 for 3. At the same time, their catcher, Pedro Severino, would end up going 2 for 4 himself with an RBI. For the Oakland A's in this matchup, the start and the win would end up going to Cole Irvin. Cole Irvin would allow 1 earned run and 5.1 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. With this win, Cole Irvin is now 2-2 as a starting pitcher. Within their lineup for the A's, their right fielder Steven Piscotty would go 2 for 4 with an RBI for himself, and then their elite third baseman Matt Chapman will go 0 for 4 as he struck out once. With this win, the Oakland Athletics are now 13-7. That is the best record in the American League West. At the moment, they currently sit 1 game ahead of the second place Seattle Mariners. With this loss, the Baltimore Orioles are now 8-11. They are tied with the New York Yankees for the worst record in the American League East, as they currently trail the Boston Red Sox by 4 games in their division. Jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Pistons hosted the Detroit Tigers, hosted the Kansas City Royals, and the Royals were able to beat the Tigers 6-2, scoring all 6 of their runs in the first 5 innings. For Detroit, the start and the loss would go to their young pitcher Casey Mize, who would allow 6 earned runs and 4.2 innings pitched as he only struck out 1 batter on the day. With this loss, Mize is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher. In their lineup, their right fielder Robbie Grossman would end up going 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run for himself. For Kansas City, the start and the win would go to Mike Minor, who allowed 2 earned runs and 5.2 innings pitched and 9 strikeouts, as he is now 2-1 as a starting pitcher on the season. Their elite second baseman Whit Merrifield will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. And then continuing on, their elite catcher Salvador Perez will go 1 for 5 as he struck out twice. And then their left fielder Andrew Benintendi will go 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs as Benintendi would hit his first home run of the season. With this win, the Kansas City Royals are now 11-7. That is the best record in the American League Central, as they sit 1.5 games ahead of the second-place Chicago White Sox. With this loss, the Detroit Tigers are now 7-13. That is the worst record in the AL Central, as they now sit 5 games behind the first-place Kansas City Royals, the team that beat them. Jumping out to New York, the Mets hosted the Washington Nationals and were able to pull up a 6-0 win as they gave DeGrom his second win of the season. For Washington, the start and the loss would go to Eric Fedde, who allowed 3 earned runs and 5 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters on the day. With this loss, Fedde is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher. No one on the team would log more than 1 hit. For the Nationals, they were only held to 2 hits all game. And, of course, a lot of that credit will go to the elite starting pitcher that started for the New York Mets last night, Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom would pitch all 9 innings. He would allow 2 hits. He allowed no earned runs, no runs total at all. And he would strike out 15 of the 27 batters that he got out. So, in addition to him, their center fielder Brandon Nimmo will go 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs as Nimmo hit his first home run of the season. Their elite shortstop Francisco Lindor will go 1 for 5. Their elite first baseman Pete Alonso will go 1 for 3 for himself. And then their elite pitcher Jacob DeGrom would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs for himself. With this win, the New York Mets are now 8-7. That is the best record in the National League East. They currently sit one game ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves at the moment. With this loss, the Washington Nationals are now 7-10. That is the worst record in the National League, as they sit 2 games behind the first place New York Mets at the moment. Jumping out to Boston, the Boston Celtics hosted the Seattle Mariners and were able to put up a 6-5 win to give Sawamura's first win of the season. For Seattle, the start and the loss would end up going to Yusei Kikuchi, who would allow 5 earned runs and 4.2 innings pitched as he struck out 1 batter on the day. With this loss, Kikuchi is now 0-1 as a starting pitcher. Their third baseman, Kyle Seager, will go 2 for 5 with 4 RBIs and a run. And then their center fielder, Kyle Lewis, will go 2 for 5. For Boston, the start would end up going to Martin Perez, but the win would go to Hirokazu Sawarama. Sawarama would pitch 1.1 inning and allow no earned runs on the day. With this win, Sawarama is now 1-0 on the season for the Red Sox. Also in their lineup, their left fielder, Alex Verdugo, will go 3 for 5 with 2 runs. Their elite designated hitter, JD Martinez, will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Martinez hit his 7th home run of the season yesterday. And then their shortstop, Xander Bogaerts, would go 2 for 4, 3 RBIs and a run. With this win, the Boston Red Sox are now 13-18. That is the best record in the American League East, as they sit 2.5 games ahead of the second-place Tampa Bay Rays. And with this loss, the Seattle Mariners are now 12-8. That is the second-best record in the American League West, as they now sit 1 game behind the Oakland Athletics at the moment. Jumping out to Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Rays hosted the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays were able to beat the Rays 5-3 after putting up 4 runs in the very, very first inning. For the Tampa Bay Rays in this matchup, the start and the loss will go to Tyler Glasnow, who allowed 5 earned runs and 6 innings pitched as he struck out 10 batters on the day. With this loss, Tyler Glasnow is now 2-1 as a starting pitcher this season. Their elite left fielder, Randy Arozarena, would be the only player who had more than 1 hit, as he went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run on the day, as he would go on to hit his 3rd home run of the season. For the Toronto Blue Jays, the win in the start will go to Steven Matz, who would allow 3 earned runs and 5 innings pitched as he struck out 7 batters on the day. With this win, Steven Matz is now 4-0 as a starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. And then within their lineup, their second baseman, Marcus Semien, would end up going 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run. Their elite first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., would go 1 for 3 as he walked and finished with a run on the day for himself. With this win, the Toronto Blue Jays are now 9-10. That is the 3rd best record in the American League East. And with this loss, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 10-10. That is the 2nd best record in the AL East. They currently trail the Red Sox by 2.5 games. Jumping out to Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians hosted the New York Yankees, and the Yankees were able to beat the Indians in Cleveland after Cleveland scored the first 3 runs of the game. But of course, New York would counter back. For the Cleveland Indians in this matchup, the start and the loss would end up going to Logan Allen. Logan Allen would allow 4 earned runs and 2.1 innings pitched as he struck out 3. With this loss, Logan Allen is 1-3 as a starting pitcher for Cleveland. In their lineup, their elite second baseman, Jose Ramirez, will go 2 for 2 with 2 walks and a run on the day. And for the Yankees, the start would go to Jordan Montgomery. Montgomery would allow 3 earned runs and 4.2 innings pitched as he struck out 5 on the day. The win would end up going to the relief pitcher, Lucas Lutka. Sorry if I butchered the name. He would strike out 1 batter in the 1.1 innings pitch as he is now 1-0 as a pitcher this season. And Aroldis Chapman would pick up his 4th save. In their batting lineup, their elite first baseman, DJ LeMay, would go 1 for 4. Their elite designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton, went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs, as Stanton hit his 4th and 5th home run of the night last night. Their elite right fielder, Aaron Judge, would go 0 for 3 as he struck out twice and walked once. And then their elite shortstop, Gleyber Torres, would go 0 for 4 on the day. For the Cleveland Indians, with this win, the New York Yankees are now 8-11. They are tied with the Baltimore Orioles for the worst record in the American League East, as they currently trail the Red Sox by 4 games. With this loss, the Indians are now 8-10. That is the 3rd best record in the AL Central, as they now sit 3 games behind the first place Kansas City Royals at the moment. Jumping out to Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks and were able to pull off a 5-4 win, giving Huascar Ynoa his first win of the season. For the Arizona Diamondbacks in this matchup, the start and the loss would end up going to Luke Weaver. Weaver would allow 4 earned runs in 5 innings pitches. He struck out 5 on the day. With this loss, Luke Weaver is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher. No one in their lineup would finish with more than 1 hit on the day. For the Atlanta Braves, the win would go to Huascar Ynoa. Ynoa would allow 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitches. He struck out 5 on the day. And then Will Smith would pick up his 4th save for the Braves this season. In their batting lineup, their elite right fielder Ronald Acuna Jr. will go 0 for 4. Their elite first baseman Freddie Freeman will go 0 for 4 as he struck out once. Their elite left fielder Marcell Ozuna went 0 for 2 as he walked twice and finished with a run. Their elite second baseman Ozzie Albies would end up going 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs as Albies hit his 3rd home run of the season. And then their pitcher Huascar Ynoa would go 2 for 2 with an RBI himself. With this win, the Atlanta Braves are now 9-10. They are tied with the Philadelphia Phillies for the second best record in the National League East as they currently trail the New York Mets by a game. With this loss, the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 9-11. That is the 4th best record in the National League West as they currently sit 5 games, or as they sit 5 games below the first place defending champs, Los Angeles Dodgers. Really quickly, jumping out to Houston, the Houston Astros hosted the Los Angeles Angels, and they were able to pull off a 5-4 win in extra innings. For the Angels in this matchup, the start would end up going to Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney will go on to allow 1 earned run in the 6.1 innings that he pitched as he struck out 10 batters. Slagers would blow the save, and the eventual loss for the Angels would go to Raisel Iglesias. Iglesias would allow 2 earned runs in the .2 innings that he pitched. With this loss, Iglesias now 1-2. That's his 2nd blown save of the season. In their batting lineup, their second baseman David Fletcher will go 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their designated hitter, Shohei Ohtani, will go 2 for 5 himself. And then looking at to how Houston fared, their starting pitcher was Zach Greinke, who allowed 2 earned runs in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. And the win would actually go to Brian Presley, the Astros relief pitcher, who would allow no earned runs in the 2 innings that he pitched as he struck out 3. With this win, Presley is now 2-0 as a starting pitcher for the Houston Astros. In their lineup, their elite third baseman Alex Beckman will go 1 for 4 as he finished with a strikeout. Their first baseman Yuli Gurriel will go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run for himself. With this win, the Houston Astros are now 9-10. That is the 4th best record in the American League West as they now sit 3.5 games behind the first place Oakland Athletics. And with this loss, the Los Angeles Angels are now 9-9. That is the 3rd best record in the AL West. They now sit 3 games behind the first place Oakland Athletics out there. Jumping out to the Twin Cities, the Minnesota Twins hosted the Pittsburgh Pirates and were able to pull off a 2-1 win to pick up their 7th win of the season, holding Pittsburgh to only 1 hit all game. To Pittsburgh, the loss in the start would go to JT Brubaker. Brubaker would allow 2 earned runs in 7 innings pitches. He struck out 5 on the day. With this loss, Brubaker is 2-1 as a starting pitcher, and the only hit in their lineup went to their catcher, Jacob Stallings. For Minnesota, the start will go to J.A. Happ. J.A. Happ would allow no earned runs and only 1 hit in 7.1 innings pitches. He struck out 3 on the day. Duffy would hold it and Rogers would save it. For their batting lineup, no one on their team finished with more than 1 RBI, but their elite designated hitter, Nelson Cruz, will go 1 for 3. And with this win, the Minnesota Twins are now 7-11. That is the 4th best record in the American League Central. They currently sit 4 games behind the Kansas City Royals. With this loss, the Pittsburgh Pirates are now 9-11. That is the worst record in the National League Central. They currently sit 2.5 games behind the first place Milwaukee Brewers in that division. Jumping out to Chicago, the Chicago White Sox hosted the Texas Rangers and were able to pull up a 9-7 win, giving Hoyer his 2nd win of the season for the White Sox. For Texas, the start would end up going to Dane Dunning. Dane Dunning would go on to allow 5 earned runs in the 2.2 innings pitches. He struck out 2. The eventual loss would get tagged to their relief pitcher, Kyle Cody. Cody would allow 3 earned runs in 3 innings pitched as he struck out 4 on the day. With this loss, Cody is 0-2 as a relief pitcher for Texas. Their shortstop, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, will go 3 for 5 with an RBI and a run for himself. And then their left fielder Adolis Garcia will go 2 for 5 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his third and fourth home run, or his fourth and fifth home run of the season yesterday. And then for Chicago, the starter was Dylan Cease, who allowed 2 earned runs in 3.1 innings pitched as he struck out 5. And the win was eventually given out to their relief pitcher, Cody Hoyer, who would allow no earned runs in 1.1 innings pitched as he struck out 1. The win would end up going to Liam Sabes, his 4th of the season. With this win, the Chicago White Sox are now 10-9. That is the second best record in the American League Central. They currently sit a game and a half behind the first place Kansas City Royals. With this loss, the Texas Rangers are now 9-11. That is the worst record in the AL West as they now sit 4 games behind the first place Oakland Athletics in that division. Jumping out to St. Louis, the St. Louis Cardinals hosted the Cincinnati Reds and were able to pull up a 5-4 win at home, overcoming the Cincinnati's comeback attempt to pick up their 9th win of the season. For Cincinnati in this matchup, the start and the loss would go to Sonny Gray. Gray would allow 5 earned runs and 3.2 innings pitched as he struck out 6 on the day. With this loss, Sonny Gray is 0-1 this season as a starting pitcher. Their left fielder, Adam Winkler, went 2 for 4 with an RBI on the day. And then there's center fielder, Nick Senzel, went 2 for 4 on the day. For the St. Louis Cardinals, their winning pitcher would end up being Kwang Hyun Kim. Kwang Hyun Kim would allow only 1 earned run in 5.2 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters. This is his first win of the season. He's now 1-0. In the Cardinals lineup, their elite first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt, will go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their elite third baseman, Nolan Arenado, will go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their future Hall of Fame catcher would end up 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run himself as he hit his 5th home run of the season. With this win for the Cardinals and loss for the Reds, both teams are now 9-10. They are tied for the 3rd best record in the National League Central as they both trail Milwaukee by 2 games in the division. Jumping out to Denver, the Rockies hosted the Philadelphia Phillies and were able to beat the Phillies 5-4 in overtime thanks to a Raimel Tapia home run, which would put them above and beyond to walk them off. For the Philadelphia Phillies in this matchup, the start would end up going to Vince Velasquez. Velasquez would allow 2 earned runs in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 4. The eventual loss would end up being tagged to Hector Neris, who would allow 1 earned run in 0.1 innings pitched he is now 1-2 as a relief pitcher this season. In their lineup, their first baseman, Rhys Hoskins, would go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run as he had his 4th home run of the season. Their elite right fielder, Bryce Harper, will go 0 for 4 as he finished with a walk and 2 strikeouts as he also had a run on the day. And then their catcher, JT Realmuto, will go 3 for 4 with a run. Their third baseman, Alec Bohm, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI. And then their second baseman, Nick Matone, would end up going 2 for 4 himself. Looking at how the Colorado Rockies fared, the start would end up going to German Marquez. Marquez would allow only 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters on the day. And the win was given to the Colorado Rockies relief pitcher, Michael Givens. Givens would allow no runs and only 1 hit in the 1 innings that he pitched, so he's now 1-1 as a relief pitcher this year. Their left fielder, Raimel Tapia, will go 3 for 5 with an RBI and a run as he hit the game-winning home run, which would end up being his 3rd of the season. Their shortstop, Trevor Story, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run, as Trevor Story would hit his first home run of the season. Their elite right fielder, Charlie Blackmon, will go 0 for 4 on the day. And then their second baseman, Garrett Hampson, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run, as Hampson has 2 home runs on the season. With this win, the Colorado Rockies are now 7-12. That is the worst record in the National League West, as they currently sit 6.5 games behind the Dodgers. With this loss, the Philadelphia Phillies are now 9-10. That they are tied with the Atlanta Braves for the second best record in the NL East, as they currently sit 1 game behind the first place New York Mets. Jumping out to San Francisco, the San Francisco Giants hosted the Miami Marlins. They were able to pull off a 5-3 win at home, with Alex Wood picking up a second. For Miami in this loss, the loss was given to Sandy Alcantara, who would allow 2 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 4 on the day. With this loss, Alcantara is now 0-2 as a starting pitcher this season, and no one on the Marlins was able to log more than 1 hit for the day. For San Francisco, the win would be given to Alex Wood, who allowed 1 earned run on 1 hit in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 7 batters on the day. With this win, Alex Wood is now 2-0 as a starting pitcher. Their right fielder, Mike Yastrzemski, is 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run as Yastrzemski hit his 3rd home run of the season. And their third baseman, Wilmer Flores, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run himself. With this win, the San Francisco Giants are now 13-7. That is the second best record in the National League West as they trail the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers by a game in the division. With this loss, the Miami Marlins are now 8-11. That is the 4th best record in the National League East, and they are currently sitting 2 games behind the first place New York Mets. Last but not least, jumping out to Dodger Stadium, the defending champs hosted the San Diego Padres. And in this matchup between Yu Darvish and Clayton Kershaw, Yu Darvish will get the better of this one, picking up his 2nd win of the season. For the Los Angeles Dodgers, the start and the loss will go to their goated starting pitcher, Clayton Kershaw, who allowed 3 earned runs in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 7 on the day. With this loss, Clayton Kershaw is now 3-0, he's now 3-2 as a starting pitcher this season. Their elite center fielder, Mookie Betts, would go 1 for 3 with a run. Their elite shortstop, Corey Seager, would go 0 for 4 as he struck out once as well. And then looking at how the San Diego Padres fared, their elite starting pitcher, Yu Darvish, led the way, and he was able to pick up his 2nd win of the season. He would allow 1 earned run in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 9. With this win, Yu Darvish is now 2-1 as a starting pitcher this year. In their lineup, their elite shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., would end up going 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs for himself as he hit his 3rd and 4th home run of the season yesterday. Their center fielder, Trent Grisham, will go 2 for 4 on this day. And then their elite third baseman, Manny Machado, will go 1 for 4 as well. With this win, the San Diego Padres are now 12-10. That is the 3rd best record in the Western Conference, as they currently sit 3 games behind the defending champs, Los Angeles Dodgers. With that said, that's virtually everything from yesterday's baseball games. Looking forward to what's going on today. Of course, navigating the schedule as one must, starting with the primetime matchups. At 1:10, Matthew Boyd and the Detroit Tigers are going to host Brady Singer and the Kansas City Royals. At 4:05, Marcus Stroman and the New York Mets are going to host Joe Ross and the Washington Nationals on FS1. At 7:10, Dallas Keuchel and the Chicago White Sox are going to host Kyle Gibson and the Texas Rangers on FS1 as well. And last but not least, on primetime, Trevor Bauer, the elite starting pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, looks to pick up his 3rd win as he faces off against Blake Snell, the elite starting pitcher for San Diego. This game will be on MLB Network at 9:10. Outside of those matchups, at 1:10, the Boston Red Sox will host the Seattle Mariners. At 2:10, the Minnesota Twins are going to host the Pittsburgh Pirates. At 2:15, the St. Louis Cardinals are going to host the Cincinnati Reds. At 2:20, the Chicago Cubs are going to host the Milwaukee Brewers. At 4:10, the Houston Astros are going to host the Los Angeles Angels. At 6:10, the Cleveland Indians are going to host the New York Yankees. And the Tampa Bay Rays are going to host the Toronto Blue Jays. At 7:05, the Baltimore Orioles are going to host the Oakland Athletics. At 7:20, the Atlanta Braves are going to host the Arizona Diamondbacks. At 8:10, the Colorado Rockies are going to host the Philadelphia Phillies. And then at 9:05, the San Francisco Giants are going to host the Miami Marlins. As of right now, that is what the entire MLB is looking like as of right now. And last but not least, taking this sports conversation off the North American continent, really quickly checking into what's going on with the world of soccer or the world of football following yesterday's matchup. The only big matchup I would say happened in the Premier League, and in this matchup, Everton would end up beating Arsenal 1-0 in a game that would not shape much of the Premier League following that. Right now, looking at what the Premier League is looking like following this, Everton now sits 8th in the table, 6 points over Arsenal when Arsenal had a chance to come back. Looking forward to what's going on today, especially with big level soccer starting in the Premier League. Liverpool looks to host Newcastle United at 7:30. Liverpool currently holding the 7th best record. A win here could temporarily punch them up into Champions League contention, so this game definitely matters. At 12:30, West Ham United, which is the 5th best team in the Premier League, are going to host Chelsea, the 4th best team. So either win here looks to be favorable for Liverpool, but this is a must-win for both teams in this situation. Outside of those games, jumping to the German Bundesliga, Mainz look to host Bayern Munich on ESPN Plus. Looking at where Bayern Munich sits in the Bundesliga, they currently sit 10 points ahead of the second place RB Leipzig. With a win here, Bayern Munich very well could win the German Bundesliga. Jumping out to Wolfsburg, Borussia Dortmund will face off against Wolfsburg at 9:30. Right now, Borussia Dortmund holds the 5th best record in the Bundesliga. A win here could see them inch closer to a Champions League spot, but they are unable to jump into a Champions League position at this very stage of the season. Really quickly, looking out to France for Ligue 1, Metz will host PSG at 11 o'clock. That'll be the only big game to look out for. This is a big game for PSG. PSG currently holds the second best record in Ligue 1 as they sit 1 point ahead, or 1 point behind Lille and 1 point ahead of third place Monaco. So, of course, a win here is very crucial for them. And with that said, that's virtually everything going on today for Saturday, April 24th. I want to thank everyone once again for listening to all 45 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well. And once all of today's matchups are done, I will come back to you tomorrow on Sunday, April 25th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. I want to thank everyone once again for listening to this piece, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.